Welcome to part 4 of the discussion on accounting for partnership liquidation. So for this discussion, we will tackle safe payments schedule and cash priority program. So these are the two ways on how we present in a formal manner the computations we have illustrated on accounting for partnership liquidation. So let us look first on how or the rationale on preparing a safe payment schedule and a cash priority program. So anong importance nito? Actually, the basic purpose of the schedule and the cash priority program is to prevent the overpayments to the partners because this is installment liquidation. So dahil we pay the partners when the cash becomes available, we tend to overlook items. So when we use the schedule and the cash priority program, uh, we are after preventing overpayments because of the concept of a limited cash. So what is a safe payment schedule? A safe payment schedule, as the term implies, is a schedule wherein we can safely pay the partners during the installment liquidation, basically to avoid the overpayment. The preparation of the schedule requires the application of the same concepts as we have discussed earlier. One is yung unsold non-cash assets are treated as loss, di ba? Under installment liquidation, whether the non-cash assets have been sold or not, it is considered uh, as a loss kahit hindi pa yun nabenta. Next, the expected future liquidation costs and potential unrecorded liabilities are recognized immediately as losses. Kumbaga, it is an outflow of cash when we look at estimated future liquidation costs. And under the safe payment schedule, we account for item A, yung unsold non-cash assets, and the expected future liquidation costs and potential liabilities, unrecorded liabilities, as the term maximum loss possible. So later we will have a deeper understanding on that. So the schedule, the safe payment schedule can be used as a supporting document to the formal statement of liquidations. Kasi may piniprepare na statement of liquidation once the company files for bankruptcy. Okay, so let us look at the illustration on safe payment schedule. So on January 1, the partners ABC decided to liquidate. So the following information was made available. So binigyan ka cash 20,000, AR 60,000, inventory 120,000, the equipment is at 300,000, total 500,000. And then meron kang accounts payable to B, this is an inside creditor, and ABC Capital, total 500,000. So total mo muna yung balances niyan kung tama at 500,000. The profit and loss ratio is determined at 20, 30, and 50%. So the partnership will be liquidated on installment basis. Distribution to owners will be made as cash becomes available. Okay, let's look at requirement 1. Prepare the safe payment schedule on January 31. So ano bang nangyari on January 31? Naka-itemize on item A to E. So the following transactions occurred on January 20x1. So A, 75% of the accounts receivable was collected for 30. Half of B, half of the inventory was sold for 40,000. C, equipment with carrying amount of 200,000 was sold for 120,000. D, 2,000 liquidation expenses were paid. Estimated future liquidation expenses totaled 1,000. And E, 9,000 cash was retained in the business for potential unrecorded liabilities and anticipated expenses. If you are really looking and referring to the discussion videos and the module, this problem is the same as that of the discussion on the previous uh, lecture videos, yung under page 108. If you will refer, under page 108, yung case number 2 on installment liquidation, this is the same case. Yung case number 2, page 107 to 108, case 2 installment liquidation, this is the same. ang pinagkaiba lang ang pinagkaiba lang dito, ang gagawin natin ngayon is the preparation of the safe payment schedule. Basically, you will be arriving at the same answer because a safe payment schedule and a cash priority program is a more formal manner lang. Yung kanina, if it is not required, yung before na na-discuss natin na illustrations, that is preferred na gamitin mo. Kung multiple choice questions ang sipaling board exam, you have to use the shortcut methods. Pero kung under your undergrad school, you will be required to prepare for safe payment schedule, cash priority program for you to to analyze more yung the importance of the transactions. Ito yon, ito yung tinuturo dito. So we are required to prepare for the safe payment schedule. So before we prepare the safe payment schedule, we have to introduce under the safe payment schedule, kailangan makompute kasi natin yung actual loss and the maximum loss possible for us to separate the monitoring of the losses. So we analyze first the actual loss on the realization of assets. So itong ano ba kasi yung actual loss? These are the losses that have been incurred because of the realization of the assets. Yung kung ano na yung talagang na-incur na loss at the period na covered. So, ang sabi dito on item A, the 75% of the AR was collected for only 30,000. So, you have to identify if there is a loss on the transaction. So, tingnan mo, magkano ba ang accounts receivable mo based on the illustration? Your accounts receivable is at 60,000. So, 75% daw nun ay nakolekta. Pero, nakolekta at what amount? Ang sabi dyan ay nakolekta lang siya ng 30,000. So, 60,000 times 75% is 45,000. 45,000 yung na-receivable. 45,000 ang carrying amount ng receivable na nakolekta lang at 30,000. Therefore, there is a loss of 15,000. Next, half of the inventory was sold for 40,000. Magkano ba ang total inventory? Ang total inventory ay 120,000. Kung kalahati daw niyan ay 60,000 times. So, 120 times 50% or 120 divided by 2, 60,000. Siya ay nabenta ng 40,000. So, therefore, merong loss na 20,000. Next, equipment na may carrying amount na 200 na benta ng 120. May loss ba? Yes, 80,000. Next, the liquidation expenses, 2,000. Okay. It is treated as a loss, diba? On our previous discussion. So, i-add mo lang po yan. The actual loss on realization on January 20X1 is 117,000. So, i-park mo muna yan. Then, let us compute the maximum loss possible. Ano ba itong maximum loss possible? What is the difference between actual loss on realization and the maximum loss? So, ang sinasabi under actual loss on realization is this is the actual loss that has been incurred when the assets have been realized. Pero itong items na ito na maximum loss possible, ito ay hindi pa natin nai-incur. Potential loss pa lang ito. Kaya nga siya maximum loss possible. So, kailangan nating i-account kung magkano yung possible pa na maging loss natin in the future dahil 'di ba the concept of conservatism, you have to recognize that there are future events that could have an adverse effect to the business. For this discussion for the liquidation process, so merong possible losses on the liquidation process dahil installment liquidation ito. So, you have to account for this. Dahil kung mag-i-incur ka ng maximum, kung meron ka pang loss na pwedeng ma-incur in the future, pero naipamigay mo na lahat ng capital ng iyong partner, saan mo kukunin yung pangbabayad mo on those kinds of losses? So, we account for the maximum loss possible as a separate monitoring to your actual loss on realization. So, let us compute for this. One, the concept of maximum loss possible, dito na papasok yung mga assets na hindi pa nabebenta. Kasi possible na itong mga assets na hindi pa nabenta ay totally hindi na yan maibenta in the future. So how do we account for that? Di ba ang sabi kanina, 75% of the AR was collected. Ibig sabihin, yung 25% ay hindi pa natin nare-realize or nako-collect. So, 60,000 times 25%, yun yung carrying amount ng unsold or uncollected non-cash asset. Next, yung half ng inventory, hindi pa yan nabebenta. So, 120 times 50%. Next, yung equipment, ang sabi dito, yung 200,000 daw na worth ng equipment ay naibenta ng 120. Eh magkano ba ang total equipment? Diba 100, 300,000. So ibig sabihin, yung 100 is unsold. So 300 minus 200, yun. So i-add lang po natin 60 lahat yon. The total should be 175,000. This is the carrying amount of the unsold non-cash assets. Next, on the illustration, meron tayong sinasabi dito yung estimated future liquidation expenses. So, future. Ibig sabihin, this is a maximum loss possible. It is not classified as an actual loss dahil sineset aside ito for future liquidation expenses. So, i-add mo yan dyan. Next, yung cash retention, ni-retain na 9,000 for potential unrecorded liabilities and anticipated expenses. Pwedeng mga administrative expenses on the liquidation process yan. Kaya, iset yung cash na sinet aside na yon na pwedeng ma-incur in the future ay isama po natin dyan. So, therefore, meron kang maximum loss possible na 175 plus 1 plus 9,000 is 185,000. If you analyze this, dun sa previous illustrations, sineparate lang natin yung actual loss on realization at saka yung maximum loss possible. There are questions in the CPA board exam. It will be taught in your review. So there are possibilities kasi na the tenor of the question is on the maximum loss possible. What is the amount of the maximum loss possible as a separate concept to the actual loss on realization. So, kailangan maintindihan mo ito. Hindi pwedeng yung total lang ang nalalaman mo. You have to look at the details because pwedeng lumabas na question is on the maximum loss possible lang. Okay, now we identify maximum loss possible and the actual loss on realization for January 20x1. Then now, we finally prepare the safe payment schedule. So let us look at the safe payment schedule. First, you have to compute for the total interest of the partners. So the total interest of the partners, kay A, 100,000, kay B, 170,000. So when we say interest, this includes the liability of the partnership to the partner. Kaya nakasama yung 20,000. Kay C, 200,000. Total of 470,000. Next, the allocation of the loss on the realization of the assets. So magkano ang how do we account for this? The actual loss on realization as computed is 117,000. Then, you will just have to apportion it based on the P&L ratio na 20, 30, and 50,000. So, yan. So, the total capital balances after the allocation of the loss on realization is 76,600, 134,900, and 141,500. Okay. Now, saan naman natin gagamitin itong maximum loss possible? You have to allocate this for the partners also kasi yan ay i-charge din sa kanilang capital account, di ba? Hindi pwede kasi na ipamigay na natin yung amount ng 76, 134, eh meron ka pa palang future losses na ine-expect, na pwedeng i-expect, I mean. So you allocate 185,000 based on the profit and loss ratio. Therefore, the first installment payment to the partners on January 20x1 is 39,600 for A, 79,400 for B, and then 49,000 for C. Total of 168,000. So kung mapapansin mo, sineparate lang natin yung actual loss and the maximum loss possible because yung sinabi ko nga kanina na pwedeng ang tanungin is the the share of the partner on the maximum loss, the share of the partner on the actual loss. So, pwedeng ganun ang question. So, if you will refer the safe payment schedule with the one we prepared on page 108, yung same illustration, you will be arriving at the same answer, yung 168,000. Yung distribution sa partners is the same on this scenario because we are just preparing the formal manner on how we present the distribution to the partners. Okay, let's proceed. So, analyzing the cash accounts, we look at the balance, the beginning balance of the cash, 20,000, tas yung mga na-collect na non-cash assets, and then naka-credit yung mga payments, yung liquidation expenses, outside creditors, and the first installment payments. So therefore, merong ending balance ang cash dyan na 10,000. So these 10,000 will represent yung sinet aside natin na future liquidation expenses na 1,000 at yung 9,000 na cash retention. Okay, let's proceed with February 1. The following transactions occurred in February 20x1. So 10,000 was collected on the remaining accounts receivable. The balance was deemed uncollectible. The other half of the inventory was sold for 20,000. The remaining items of equipment were sold for 30. Liquidation expenses 10,000. The liquidation process ended on February 28, 20x1. So now we are asked to prepare the safe payment schedule on February 28, 20x1. So ano ang first step? You compute for the actual loss and then you compute for the maximum loss possible. Since ang sabi dito, the liquidation process ended on February 28, 20x1, wala na tayong kukompute na maximum loss possible dahil nag-end na yung liquidation process. So, ano lang i-compute mo? The actual loss on the realization on February. So, magkano ba ang total losses on the collection of accounts receivable? So, sa remaining accounts receivable daw, 10,000 ang nakolekta. Magkano ba yung remaining receivable? Ito yung 25% ng 60,000. So, may loss na 5,000. Loss naman sa inventory na 20,000. Bakit? Kasi 60,000 yung half nun, nabenta lang siya ng 20,000. So, magkano ang loss? 40,000. The remaining items of equipment were sold for 30,000. So, magkano ba yung equipment na natira na hindi pa nabenta? 100,000 minus 30,000. Ang loss dyan ay 70,000. Next, yung liquidation expenses, magkano? 10,000. Ayun. So, you compute 5 plus 40 plus 70 plus 10. That is equal to 125,000. This is the actual loss on realization. So, let us prepare the safe payment schedule. So, total interest, plot mo lang uli dyan. Yung allocation ng loss mo na na-compute mo kanina for January. And then the first installment, i-plot mo lang din dyan. Okay, so ito na po. Balikan lang nga natin yung kanina. 168,000 ba yun? Tama. Okay. Yung first installment payment should be deducted to the balances kasi yan na po yung unang naibigay sa kanila. Okay, so as of February 1, 20x1, the total interest in the partnership is 185,000. So we allocate the losses. 125,000 times the profit and loss ratio. So yan. So after allocating, the final installment to the partners will be 12,000, 18,000, 30,000 for A and B and C respectively. So yan po yung naipamigay, 60,000. So let us look at this using the T account for the cash. So, February 1, 20x1, ang beginning balance ay 10,000. Saan nakuha yan? Yung ending ng January. Yung collection ng receivable, 10,000. Yung sale ng inventory, 20,000. Sale ng equipment, 30,000. Tapos yung binayaran liquidation expenses, 10,000. Tapos yung final payment to partner, 60,000. Therefore, at the end of February 20x1, wala na tayong cash. You can refer to the statement of liquidation. This statement of liquidation will just simply summarize the transactions that transpired from January 1, 20x1 up to February 28, 20x1, which is the end of the liquidation process. So you have to refer to this one in checking the transaction. So you have to be familiar on the preparation of these items. Okay, let's proceed now to the cash priority program. So after looking at the safe payment schedule, another way on how we present in a formal manner the transactions uh, on partnership liquidation is preparing the cash priority program. So basically, the cash priority program, as its term imply, will have to indicate which partners will be prioritized when the cash becomes available. So the process in the preparation of the cash priority program is uh, is essentially the same. Look at this. One, yung unsold non-cash assets are treated as loss. This is the same when you are preparing the safe payment schedule. Expected future liquidation costs and potential unrecorded liabilities are recognized immediately as losses. This is the same when you are preparing the safe payment schedule. The additional procedure that we have to learn before we prepare the cash priority program is to identify the maximum loss absorption capacity. So ano ba tong maximum loss absorption capacity? It can be computed as the total partner's interest in the partnership, yung capital niya, plus yung utang ng partnership sa kanya, or minus yung receivable ng partnership sa kanya, divided by the P&L ratio of that partner. So that will be your maximum loss absorption capacity. So, anong sinasabi under the maximum loss absorption capacity kapag na-identify mo na yan? Ang sinasabi lang nito ay kapag ganito ang klase ang loss, pag ganitong amount ang loss, ay kaya pang bayaran ng aking capital balance. So, yun ang ibig sabihin nun. Kapag ganitong amount ang loss, for example, 100,000 ang maximum loss absorption capacity mo, ibig sabihin, kung 100,000 ang total partnership loss, ay kaya pang bayaran yan ng aking interest in the partnership, nung aking capital contribution sa partnership. So basically, ganun lang yon. So when we identify the maximum loss absorption capacity of the partners, we have to rank it according to the highest MLAC to the lowest. Sir, bakit kailangan i-rank? Because the highest MLAC, I will be using MLAC to refer to maximum loss absorption capacity in the interest of time. So, the highest MLAC will be prioritized. Kaya ito cash priority program. So, later on, we will have an illustration on that. So, if mas mataas ang iyong MLAC, therefore, there is a possibility na kung kakaunti lang ang available na cash, yun ay mapunta sa'yo. Sir, bakit po ganun? Because binibenefitan natin yung partners that have a greater amounts of capital contribution and interest in the partnership. Kumbaga, that is we compensate for the benefit na ibinibigay nila sa partnership. Okay, let us illustrate this kasi para mas maintindihan natin. So on January 1, we are provided with the following balance sheet accounts because ABC decided to liquidate the partnership. So ayan, total 500,000, total 500,000. The P&L ratio is at 20, 30, and 50% for A, B, and C. Okay, let us take a look on this. So, di ba, the first illustrations, the procedures that have been discussed to you is to identify the maximum loss absorption capacity. So, the total interest in the partnership is 100, 170, and 200,000. You divide it with the profit and loss ratio, 20, 30, and 50. 100 divided by 20% is 500,000. 170 divided by 30 is 566,667. And then C, 200,000 divided by 50% is 400,000. So, anong sinasabi ng maximum ng MLAC? Ang ibig sabihin lang nito, kapag 500,000, for example, ang loss ay 500,000, kayang-kayang bayaran yon ng kaya pa ng capital contribution yun ni A. Kapag pag lumagpas ng 500,000 yun, ibig sabihin hindi na yun kaya ng hindi na yung kaya yung i-absorb ng interest or ng capital ni A. Kaya hanggang doon lang. Yun yung maximum loss absorption. Kapag 566,667 yung total, ang ibig sabihin nitong mga amounts ng MLAC is the total partnership loss. So, yun siya. So, based on the MLAC, ang highest ay si B, 566,667. Ibig sabihin, kapag ganito kataas yung loss ng partnership, yung capital ni B ay magiging 0. Dahil yung buong 170,000 ay pangbabayad na lang niya sa partnership. However, for partners A and C, magiging negative na ang kanilang capital. So, dapat pa silang magbigay ng additional investment kung sila ay solvent. So, yun lang ang sinasabi dyan. So, when we rank it, first is si B, second si A, and then third si C. So, you have to remember yung ranking. Bakit kailangan yung ranking? Because we have to equalize the MLAC on our second procedure. So, first, we compute for the MLAC and then rank. And then second, we equalize the MLAC. So, paano sir i-equalize? I-plot mo lang yung MLAC and then you compute for the difference between the first and the second in the ranking. Kung 566,667 at ang next ay 500,000, therefore, ang difference ay 66,667. So, i-balance out mo uli 500,000, 500,000, and then 400,000. So, balance na si A at si B dahil binawasan mo si B ng 66,667. Okay, si A, B, and C ay hindi balance because si C ay 400,000. So, have to deduct 100,000 for both A and B to equalize the MLAC. So, 100, 100. So, ngayon, equal na sila at 400, 400, and 400,000. Okay. So, okay na tayo sa second procedure which is yung ini-equalize yung MLAC. MLACs are equalized. Next, yung third procedure is the cash priorities are computed by multiplying the differences to the respective P&L ratios. Ano yung difference na sinasabi? Yung difference na ibinawas mo, ito, yung 66,000 at yung 100,000 na narito. So, dapat yun ay i-multiply mo ngayon sa kanilang profit and loss ratio na 20, 30, and 50%. So, you have to look at your cash priority program, the preparation of the cash priority program. So, A, B, and C. Sino ba ang nasa una sa rank? Si B. First. So, sa first priority, 66,667, di ba? Ito yung difference. You multiply it to the P&L ni B. So, 66 times 30, 20,000. Second priority, 100,000 times 20% kay A times 30% kay B. So, total mo yan, for A, 20, for B, 50,000, kay C, wala. So, anong ini-imply nitong procedure on the computing for the differences and then multiplying it to your P&L ratio? So, ang sinasabi lang dito ay, this cash priority program means that kapag naging available yung cash, ang unang babayaran ay si B, magkano? 20,000. Kapag lumagpas sa 20,000 yung available, ang babayaran ay si A at si B for 20 and 30,000 respectively. At kapag sumobra pa yung cash available, it will be distributed to the partners based on the P&L ratio na 20, 30, and 50. Okay, let us illustrate the cash priority program more. So the following transactions occurred in January 20x1. So ito po yung details. A to F. So AR, inventory, equipment, liquidation expenses, estimated future liquidation expenses, and then cash retention on 9,000. So the requirements is to determine the cash payments to the partners on January 31 using a cash priority program. So anong first step natin? The first step is to identify yung ano ang first step natin? To identify the MLAC of the partners. Okay, let's look at the problem. Ito ba ay continuation ng problem na 75? Yes, this is a continuation pala. Illustration 1, under illustration 1 ito, tapos January 1. So, itong pinakitang discussion dito is the discussion on um, how we determine. So, na-identify na natin dito kung sino yung first, second, and third. So, nandito na tayo sa process ng yung mismong amounts na, yung meron na mismong cash available. Kasi dito kanina, kinumpute natin yung scenario na hindi na ano pa siya before, di ba? Ang sabi dito, even prior to the sale of any asset, we can determine the amount of minimum safe payments to the partners when or as cash becomes available by preparing a cash priority program. So, pin-prepare na natin yung cash priority program before pa tayo magbenta ng assets. So, now, we apply the cash priority program dahil meron ng mga nabentang assets. So, yung procedure natin, na-identify na natin yung ranking. So, ngayon, tingnan natin kung magkano yung available na cash sa atin. So, how do we compute for the available cash? Okay, tingnan muna natin yung how do we compute for the available cash. Tingnan natin yung illustration. Di ba base dito, meron kang beginning balance na cash, 20,000. Tapos, yung itong mga non-cash assets, yan ay na-realize. So, compute natin yung kung magkano yan na-realize. And then, yung payable to outside creditors, itong 30,000 kasi yan ay priority, ibawas natin. So, let us take a look at the solution. Okay, tingnan mo yung solution. Iba lang yung forma pero the concept is there. 1, the cash balance, 20,000. The accounts payable, 30,000. Ayun siya, binawas. Okay, cash balance, inad, tas binawas yung accounts payable. So now, magkano yung non-cash assets yung pinagbentahan? Ito yon, collection of AR, 30, sale of inventory, 40, sale of equipment, payment for liquidation, cash set aside, and then cash set aside for retention for potential future cost, 178. So the total cash available for distribution is 168,000. So 168,000 based on your cash priority program, ang sabi, the first priority will be given to B, 20,000, and then second priority will be given to A, 20, and then B, 30. So 50 lahat yon for second priority. So 168 minus 20 minus 50 is 98,000 yung total balance after the first and second priorities. Ano na ba ang next? E de yung profit and loss ratio. Diba sabi dito, any remaining cash will be distributed to all partners based on their profit and loss ratio. So 98,000, multiply it to 20% times 30% times 50%, you will be arriving at 19,600, 29,400, and then 49,000. So you have just to foot the items. This is your first installment payment. 39,600 for A, 79,400 for B, and then 49,000 for C. Okay. So if you will be looking at the illustration, after A and B are allocated their cash priorities, the 98,000 is allocated to the PNL. Okay, discuss na natin yan. The amounts computed above are equal to the amounts computed in illustration 1, lump sum, case 2, and the illustration of safe payment schedule. Yes, they will be essentially be the same because you are observing the same concept pero iba lang yung procedure natin. Kung doon sa previous illustration, yung sinite ko na kanina ito, 'di ba? Yung on page 108 of the book, pinagsasama nila yung actual loss and the maximum loss possible uh, for efficient computation para mas mabilis lang makompute. Pero kung nire-require sa to prepare a cash priority program and a safe payment schedule, you have to prepare one. Okay, so they are essentially the same because ito ay formal manner of presenting lang naman yung computations before. So let us now continue with February 20x1. So same procedures, binigyan ka ng data on February 20x1, then sinabi na the liquidation process ended on February. So, determine daw the cash payments on February using the cash priority program. So, anong gagawin mo? Same procedure po tayo. Yung ranking kanina remains the same. Ano ang kailangan mong gawin ngayon to compute for the cash available on February? Yung cash available on February ang tingnan po natin. Sir, kanina yung cash on beginning for January is at 20,000. Ngayon, magkano ba ang beginning balance? Since na-distribute na po natin yan on first installment payment, tingnan mo, i-analyze mo kung alin bang items of cash ang natira dyan. Ito ay nakolekta, yung sinet aside. Yan ay cash pa rin, pero sinet aside lang for liquidation expenses and for potential future costs. So, yan po yung beginning mo, 1K and 9K. Beginning mo ng February, 10,000. Meron ka pa bang liability? Wala na, kasi nga, nabayaran na siya on January. So, ang tingnan mo na lang, i-add mo na lang po ay yung napagbentahan or nakolekta sa receivables. So, 10,000, then the sold 20,000, the equipment 30,000, yung binayarang liquidation expenses 10,000. So, ito po yung tinutukoy dito. May binayarang 10,000 liquidation expenses, pero ang sinet aside kasi dyan ay magkano? 1 for liquidation and 1 for potential future cost. So, ito na yon. So, magkano po ang total na available for distribution to partners is 60,000. So, 60,000. Based on your cash priority program, paano natin i-apply ito? Gagamitan pa rin ba ito ng first and second priority? The answer is no. Dahil nagawa na po natin yan on January. So, ngayong February, since this is already an excess of the priorities na in-indicate kanina sa cash priority program, it will only be distributed based on the P&L ratio. So, 60,000, i-apportion mo yan based on 20, 30, and 50%. Yun ang final installment payment ni A, B, and C. 12,000, 18,000, and 30,000 for A, B, and C respectively. Okay. So I think that ends the illustration for illustration 1, yung mahabang problem on illustration 1 cash priority program. Let us look at illustration 2. Ito yung parang may twist lang siya. Medyo lilituhin ka lang ng konti. So binigyan ka ng the partners ABC ay nag-liquidate na daw. Tapos meron silang capital balance na in-indicate, meron ding profit and loss ratio. So, this paragraph will tell you what to do. So, the requirement is to, using the cash priority program, compute for the amount received by partner C on the third distribution. Okay, let's look on this paragraph. The non-cash assets were sold on installment and partial payments were made to the partners as cash become available. After the second sale of non-cash assets, all the three partners received cash from the partial distribution. On the third sale of non-cash assets, the cash available for distribution to the partners is 10,000. Okay. Binigyan ka ng profit and loss ratio, binigyan ka lang ng capital balance, tapos kinuwentuhan ka kung ano nangyari. And then on the third sale daw ng non-cash, ang naging cash available for distribution to the partners is 10,000. Ang tinatanong sa'yo is yung na-receive ni C on the third distribution. So what does it mean? Anong ibig sabihin yan? Balikan natin yung sinasabi niya on the sale of the non-cash assets. Kasi parang if you look at this, it tends the problem requires you to squeeze items or to work back, pero i-analyze mong mabuti. The non-cash assets were sold on installment, okay? And partial payments were made to the partners as cash become available. Okay, kasi yun naman yung installment talaga, di ba? When the assets are sold, or when assets are realized, tsaka pa lang tayo nagdi-distribute ng cash. Okay, look at this next sentence. After the second sale of the non-cash assets, all the three partners received cash from the partial distribution. On the third sale, the cash available for distribution to the partners is 10,000. So, kung titingnan mo itong second sentence, ang sinasabi niya dito ay all the three partners receive cash from the partial distribution. Itong partial distribution na to, nung nabenta yung second. Kumbaga, nagbenta dito, tapos naka-receive, nagbenta, hindi, nagbenta dito, and then ang in-indicate na rule is when the partner, the partial payments were made to the partners as cash become available. So, ibig sabihin, on the first instance, pwedeng ang naka-receive dyan yung may mga priorities based on the cash priority program. Pero nung sinabi sa after the second sale of non-cash, all the three partners receive cash from the partial distribution, ibig sabihin, on the first sale pa lang na-comply na yung mga naka-set na priorities under the cash priority program. Dahil ang naka-indicate kasi dito, doon sa after the second sale daw, all the three partners naka-receive na. So therefore, it is safe for us to assume that the 10,000 cash available for distribution to the partners on the third sale will only be subjected to the profit and loss sharing ratio. We assume here that based on the tenor of the sentences or the information given, that the 10,000 is the remaining cash available to be distributed using the P&L ratio. Kumbaga na-accommodate na yung mga nakaset na priorities on after the second sale. Kasi ang sabi, all the three partners receive cash from the partial distribution. So how do we compute for the requirement? Yung tinatanong na partner na amount received ni partner C on the third distribution, you have to just compute based on the P&L ni C na 20%. So 10,000 times 20% is 2,000. That is the answer for illustration 2. Okay, let's take a look at this, yung note niya. The problem states that all the partners receive cash from the second distribution. This means that all the priorities have been paid. Thus, the third distribution is allocated based on the partners P&L ratio. Okay. So let us just summarize these chapters. Liquidation is the termination of the business operations or the winding up of the affairs. The order of priority in the settlement of claims during the liquidation is 1. Outside creditors. 2. Inside creditors. Itong inside creditors, ito yung mga liabilities to the partners. Liabilities of partnership to the partners. And then 3rd, the owner's capital balances. Okay. The pro forma computation for distribution to the partners is the capital balances plus or minus yung payable or receivable sa partners because of the right of offset, then the total before allocation of the loss based on P&L ratio, and then the amounts received by the partners. The loss is computed as follows: the net proceeds, the net of actual and estimated expenses and cash retentions, less the carrying amount of all non-cash assets whether sold or not, or the balancing figure in the basic accounting equation. So, ito yung two ways on how we compute. One is yung net proceeds compared to your carrying amount, and then pwede rin gamitin yung basic accounting equation na assets is equal to liabilities plus capital or equity. In case of partnership insolvency, the rule of marshalling of assets is applied. Yung marshalling of assets, di ba, we have identified this as yung order of priority. Under this rule, only the excess of a partner's personal assets over his personal liabilities can be used to settle partnership debt. Any capital deficiency of an insolvent partner is absorbed by the solvent partners. Under the cash priority program, when all of the priorities are paid, the remaining cash is distributed to the partners based on the profit and loss ratio. So I think that ends the discussion on accounting for partnership liquidation. Thank you.